over in Colebrook Mission, just on the other side of Iona, in 1945. And when she was 7 days old, she was taken from her mother and brought to Colebrook here at Eden Hills. So it was part of the assimilation policy, where the government thought it was a good idea to take children from their families, or what they would call the half-caste children, with mixed blood, and put them into a home such as this one. So Colebrook started in 1924 in Iona, and 1926 it moved to Corn, and then in 1943 it came here to Eden Hills, where it was closed in 1970. It was run by the United Aborigines Mission up until 1956, and then the government took over control of it. And then when it closed, the children were fostered out to homes and such. Mum was here for about 12 years, 11 or 12 years, so she pretty much grew up in the home here. And as I said, she was 7 days old when she came here, so when the babies came to the home, the older children would look after them, or become their mothers. So Mum's mum was Auntie Amy, and Auntie Loja O'Donoghue, her sister, and Auntie Loja was Auntie Dicey's mum. And they had that really strong connection and bond, so much so that when Auntie Amy passed away a few years ago, it hit Mum really, really hard, as if her true mother had died. So, they sort of had that strong connection in the home, and they kept that connection when the home closed down as well. They were always in touch with each other, they stayed in touch with each other. Just me growing up, there wasn't a day went by that we was either at one of their houses or they were at our house. So they had that form, that really close connection, which kept going. Unfortunately, most of them are at that age now where they're passing away. I think we've had about 6 former residents pass away in the last 3 years, 2 or 3 years. So, it's to be expected, they've all grown old and had their past here. But, just to have that connection, and they all had a sense of humour as well. I just remember every time that I used to love it when they'd come around home, or we'd go around to their house, because it'd be just one laugh, one big laugh. A few years ago, Mum and Auntie Margaret came and stayed around home for a week, and by the end of that week, my stomach was sore, my jaws were aching just from laughing all week. It's just, they all had that. Auntie Doris was one listening close here, and you just got to hear her voice and you start laughing, to bring a smile to your face. So, they had that for the whole time. Mum passed away about 3 years ago now, right at the beginning of COVID. So it was really hard because I think COVID started in March 2020. Mum passed away in April. So and she was living over in Albury as well. So trying to go over there and come back here, and having to isolate for 2 weeks each time I travelled, and it was only just was able to go over to her funeral. So I'd only just came back to Adelaide and was isolating for 2 weeks, and 3 days later she passed away. And it was so hard back then because COVID was just new. No one knew where to go to get an exemption to travel, and it was all new to everyone. I don't know how many phone numbers I was given to call, but eventually worked it out in the end. And even a funeral, it wasn't the sort of funeral that I pictured for Mum. We could only have 10 people there. We couldn't follow the hearse to the cemetery. We had a viewing at the funeral house, and then we had to wait for an hour and then meet them at the cemetery. So it was just crazy. Just wasn't the sort of service that I expected. Thankfully now I'm involved with Pilgrim Church, and last year we had a memorial at the church, thanks to one of the ministers there, Mark. So we organised that, and I think the thing that hit me the most was that we couldn't have pallbearers, so I couldn't carry my mum's coffin to the grave, and that really hit me hard. So at the memorial service last year, we had a photo, and I sort of walked the photo out, and it was like I was carrying her. So thanks again to Mark, for helping do that and put it all together, and it was a sense of closure for me then. I was able to move on from that. So, in the home here, there were two nuns who ran the home. Sister Hyde, not nuns. Sisters. Sister Hyde and Sister Rudder, and they were. You talk to any of the kids who were in the home when those two sisters were here, they've got nothing but good stories about them, the good memories. And I was actually lucky enough to meet Sister Hyde. I can't remember if it was her 90th or her 100th birthday, but they had like a big Colebrook reunion of all the former residents, and I remember sitting on her lap, and I could just feel that warmth from her. So all the kids had good memories, and then when the sisters left, they went down to Canberra, and then as I said, the government took over, and that's when all the abuse started. A lot of bad stories started happening from that time. So and even today, in the last few years, a lot of the former residents won't come back here. They know what we've been doing here, and they're happy with what we've been doing here, but they just can't, because of the memories, especially those who came here after the sisters left and had only known what was going on at that time. So there was one gentleman I was talking to a few years ago, and he really wanted to come here, but he just couldn't. And I was talking to him over like a couple of years, and he eventually came here, and he just cried. So and then he was glad that he did come because he saw what we were doing here. So what we've done is to make it as a memorial to the stolen generation, to the former residents of the home. I might be a little bit all over the place here and there because there's so much to talk about the place. And if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them for you. So it was a hard time. I mean, you could think back then there weren't like the funding options that we have today, and the resources that we have today were pretty much non-existent back then. So the sisters did all they could to even just to provide meals for the kids. The sisters made all their clothes themselves and the toys and stuff. So they were really had their heart in the place, and for the kids they did whatever they could to provide for them. So when they left, it was a big they left a big hole here that obviously wasn't going to be filled again. So but you could think of considering what they did go through in the home. A lot of the former residents went on to big and wonderful things. As I mentioned, Auntie Lowager was the first chair of ATSIC. Auntie Faith Coulthard was the first Australian representative in cricket. Now, I heard that she was the first Australian, both male and female, to represent Australia in the sport overseas. And then we've got Auntie Grace, who was the first registered nurse in South Australia, Aboriginal nurse. Auntie Amy was the first registered teacher, Aboriginal teacher in South Australia. And one of the, I guess you could say, the feel-good stories about this place was when the home was here, the children weren't allowed to go down to the primary school, Eden Hills Primary School. So they had a room in the house that they had their school room and their schooling from. and then years later, Annie Amy ended up teaching down at Eden Hills Primary School, and I think she became the principal as well. I think. Yeah. So you know, a school that wouldn't let her go when she was a kid, she ended up making a big impression there later on. So so you know, a lot of them went on to do amazing things. And as I said, like with Mum, you know, considering what she'd done over the years, it was the funeral was just not, you know, what I had in mind, you know. So at the site here is managed by Blackwood Reconciliation Group, and they started as a study group in 1994. They had a study about reconciliation, which was an 8-week course, and when they finished that, they wanted to continue with their work with reconciliation. So Blackwood Reconciliation Group was formed, and we have 2 members here with us today. Anne's the secretary, current secretary, and Heather is just Heather. Are you still the mayor?
She's still the
sorry,
mayor.
I got to be careful. Mayor of Mission Council, yeah. I think we've got a really good connection with Heather, and we have for a number of years now. Actually worked with Heather to have the Aboriginal flag hanging in the council chambers for the first time ever. So
That was such a good one.
that was awesome. Yeah, couldn't believe that. But so they formed the Blackwood Reconciliation Group, and they found out about this site here and what was here, their home. So they took it under their wing, and they wanted to you know, do here what they've done. So over the last nearly 30 years now, they've worked on this site. The Fountain of Tears was the first major project that we did here, and I think it just goes to show the commitment of the reconciliation group. You know, all volunteers, the number of hours that they've put into this site over the years, you wouldn't be able to, I mean, no calculator would be able to handle that number. But, you know, it shows how committed they are. I remember camping here on the weekends, digging the trenches for the water pipes and cables and such. And we'd able to make a whole weekend of it. And even today, there's 5 or 6 of the original members still there.
In the group?
In the group.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
possibly
yeah.
more, because people like Bruce and Bonnie have just come back because of the Voice campaign. And
Oh, right, yeah.
got a lot of people have come back.
Yeah, so
Stop coming to meetings.
yeah, and it shows the commitment that they have to the site and to the what they call the Jiti Jutta, which is the children who were in the home at the time. So yeah, we started with the Fountain of Tears there in 1998, and then the Grieving Mother in 99, and then you can see a few of the other projects. We have the Listening Post, the mosaic around the campfire. The listening post, there were sort of 2 parts to that. We wanted to record stories from some of the former residents as well. So we recorded about 3 hours of their stories each, and just little snippets are on the listening post here. But that was so those tapes. We don't use tapes no more. Those recordings are now in the state library, so future generations can access them and hear the stories of their family who are in the home here. So you know, that was a really worthwhile project. I was at most of the recordings when we did it, and there was things that I've heard that I'd never heard before from some of the former residents. So you know, it was an eye-opener for me as well. You know, it was, just hearing their stories, even though I'd pretty much growing up with them, there was still a lot that they didn't talk about. There's still a lot that they didn't share. In Mum's case, it was you know, she grew up with a lot of hatred from when she was in the home here. She actually had the letter H tattooed on her ankle to say that she was going to hell when she died. So you know, it had a huge impact on Mum. Of course, they were sort of teaching the kids, bringing them up in a Christian way. So they all had Bibles on their bedside tables that they had to read every night. And apparently one night, Mum, she started rebelling, and she gathered up all the Bibles one night and put them at the back here in the pile and set fire to them. So she, I mean, it's a bit funny now, but I was guessing at the time it wasn't, and I think she got a bit of a hiding for that one. But yeah, I mean that was the sort of and Mum didn't really, come to terms with her past, with her story, with her history in the home. And it wasn't until she became involved with the Blackwood Reconciliation Group, she ended up becoming really close friends with Mike and Jean Brown, who were part of, and still are today, a part of the group. And after a couple of years, Mum started opening up to them. So she started to tell her story about her time in the home here. And myself and my two sisters, we could notice the change in her straight away. She keeps saying that she wasn't changed, she was still the same person, but we could tell, we could notice the difference in her. And she spent numerous weekends at Mike and Jean's house up in Blair here, and just really started to open up to them. So she grew up with a lot of anger, a lot of hatred, and it wasn't until that time that she started to deal with her past. So that was in her 50s, I think, she was back then. But even getting her to the reconciliation group, we're not sure exactly how it happened. But when they first gathered to have a meeting, they sent flyers out to people talking about the upcoming meeting. And Mum was a manager in a hostel down in Glen at the time, and we're still not sure how it happened, but one of those flyers got into her letterbox. And of course she's in Colebrook, we're meeting about Colebrook, and she came up here for the meeting, and she'd been involved with it ever since then. So I think she came up with Auntie Amy as well. So they've been pretty much involved with from the start. As I said, they've both passed on now, but and again they put so many hours into this place, and they really wanted to make an area where people can come and reflect on the site, on the history of the site, what was here. There's good stories, there's bad stories, but with this place we try to make it as such that it doesn't really hit you in the face, but it still tells the story of what was here. So we've had a lot of good support over the years. Those who from Mitchell Council, been with us the whole time, pretty much. And we also get a lot of support from the local schools, local organisations. The listening posts were painted from students from Blackwood High School, Bellevue Heights Primary, Eden Hills Kindergarten. So they've all, and it gives them a sense of ownership of the place as well. When they can come here. We had a tree planting last year where I think over 100 people came, and they all planted, helped plant trees. So they'll come back in a few years, I planted that one, and that. But I mean, the support that we get, sometimes it was a little bit scary because we didn't know how the local community would react to this place. When we first started working on it, a lot of the local residents came over when they saw us here. They'd come over and say hello, and they'd say, I remember when the home was here, see all the kids running around. And so they have memories of the place when the home was actually here. But when we had the unveiling of, I think it was the grieving mother, the first plaque, I think, at the front there. But we had an unveiling of it, organised sausage sizzle, and expecting, 50 people. Would have been wrapped if 100 came, and we got almost 2,000 come on the day. And there was cameras and reporters and journalists and everything. So I think someone jumped in the car and went up to Coles for sausages. But it was that sort of support that that we've been getting from the local community, and that's why we decided, you know, I mean, it was a no-brainer, but to involve the local community in the process that we do here. We had numerous people help cut the tiles for the mosaic here. So it's even though we get that sort of support, it's still funny about how many people don't actually know what this site was. I had a group of students from Blackwood High School come down one day, and the principal came down with them, and later on she asked if she could bring her teaching staff, her staff down in a couple of weeks' time. So, you know, these are teachers from the school just here. They drive past here every day, but most of them didn't know what was here or the history of this place. So, you know, it's still a bit of a mystery, this place, to a lot of people, but we're getting more and more people coming here now, and even people from interstate, overseas, come here to learn about the history of this place. One of the hardest things I ever did was actually, I had a Spanish group here, and they couldn't speak English, so we had a translator, and I thought, oh, it would be nice translator, it would be alright, but it was the hardest thing I have ever done, talking through a translator, because you say a couple of lines and then they translate it, and then because you're listening to the translator talk, you lose where you are. When they finish, I'm like, what do I? But yeah, it might sound easy, but oh my goodness, it was so hard. But I know that for next time now. But we got through it all right. It went okay. But you know, we do get a lot of interest here, and it's an open park. You know, people can come here anytime.